Welcome, podcasters, to Sexplosion. My name is Caroline Chenier, and I'm your coach on all things intimacy, relationships, sex, and superconsciousness. This is my podcast teaching you about how to sexually liberate yourself to be confident, spicy, and fun around sex and intimacy, along with learning how to build a great foundation for strong, long-lasting, and passionate relationships. This is most certainly unfiltered, uncensored, and unexpected. Today's topic is all about sex and marriage. My gorgeous guest, Anne Skelton, and I will be discussing the honeymoon period, how it's created, why it fades, and if we've got time, how to get it back again. It might have to be another session. We're also going to talk about routine sex, how to get out of boredom, and then some tips. So the beautiful Anne is a qualified, accredited master coach, helping people transform their relationships, ignite old sparks, and reconnect with the important people in their lives. Like me, she loves people and has an interest in their relationships and the dynamics within those relationships. For Anne, it was a chance encounter with a relationship coach that inspired her to use her life knowledge to help others. So Anne, a warm and a very, very sexy welcome to Sexplosion.
Oh, so thank you very much for having me. I'm excited.
So Anne, listen, before we get into the nitty gritty, what I'd like to know is how did it happen with your chance encounter with your relationship coach?
A few years ago, I was watching a program on TV called The 7-Year Switch. It was about some couples that were having problems in their marriages, relationships. And what they did was they took, I think it was 8 couples, and they split them up. So they gave, say the dominant partner from one relationship to the dominant partner from the other relationship, put them together and got them to live in, obviously it was in a lovely hot country. I can't remember where now, but they had a lovely apartment, with swimming pool and what have you. They all agreed at the beginning that one would sleep on the sofa and one would sleep in the bed, because obviously they were married or in a relationship and didn't want that, didn't want to abuse that. Abuse that might be the wrong word, but you know what I'm saying.
I know it sounds right.
Yeah,
don't worry.
And on that program they had a relationship coach, and I thought he was really good. I think I've since found out that he's not actually a relationship coach, but he is some sort of other relationship type guru. But I was just really impressed with some of the stuff he did, and I found it really useful. Obviously on the TV show they create issues as well. So for example, they gave photos to the other partners of one that was in a swimming pool, and it looked, for example, one of the women looked like she was naked, but she just had a thong on, so you couldn't see the front of it, and she was on a inflatable thing, so you couldn't see that she was fully covered up, and she was in the pool with this other guy from another couple. And so of course they send these photos to her partner and he goes crazy. So it's all, it's all good
like
TV.
Big Brother, isn't it? It's a bit
so
like,
a lot of it obviously is set up, but it's set up, to see how they would respond to things and what they're how they deal with it. And I just found that all very interesting, as I do with most programs on relationships. Who doesn't love a bit of Married at First Sight? Totally unreal TV, but
I haven't actually seen that yet. I have heard it's a lot of, people get addicted to it, don't they?
Yes, be careful, it is addictive. That was what I was going to say to you. So anyway, when my husband and I were having a few problems, I decided that I would look up a relationship coach, and we did find someone, and I was more attracted to her by her name than any of her qualifications, so I didn't really pay much attention to that.
What was her name?
Her name was Lyndon Porter.
Right.
She's now retired, but she is a Tony Robbins trained coach. So as you know, that's one of the highest quality coaches that you're going to get. And but you have to really put into play everything that is suggested and use the strategies that they give you to make a difference. So it just really inspired me to do that.
Oh, that's
And to,
lovely.
and to, you know, like for those people that have marriage problems and children are involved, it was partly to sort of see if I can help save a marriage where children are involved, the impact of that would be greater than
You're
helping
absolutely
them through the
right.
divorce, if that makes
You're
sense.
absolutely right. You
We
know,
do, as you know, we do help people through divorce as well. It's not, you know, it's not all
yeah.
about, you know, hairy fairy, let's get the marriage back on track. And, you know, you have to work at it yourselves in order for it to go
That's
anywhere.
it. If you're not committed, it's not going to work, is it?
That's it. So obviously we see people through divorces as well. And, you know, I coach some people into their next relationship.
And it's not only that either, though, because you do relationships between like siblings or, you know,
Yeah,
parents. Yeah, you do that too, don't
absolutely.
you?
Yeah. It is really important to, you know, every family has a, you know, a little black cloud over it. It doesn't matter what the situation is and, you know, at what level it's at, but every family has a, you know, a black sheep, or, you know, sorry, perhaps I shouldn't say black sheep, but, you know, that is the sort of stereotypical view of one person who doesn't conform to the rest of the family, if you like. Yeah, so it's nice to be able to help people with that and see that progression.
Yeah, definitely. Well, listen, we'd love to hear your tips later on of sexual tips, things from your experience. But what I'd like to explain to people now is what is the honeymoon period. So the honeymoon period is actually called the honeymoon effect in science terms. There's a fantastic scientist called Bruce Lipton. Have you heard of him, Bruce Lipton?
I've heard of him, yeah. I haven't
Okay,
read
so
it.
he's written a fantastic, I mean, he's done loads of stuff, but one book in particular called The Honeymoon Effect. And what it is, it's when we are blissfully happy, so excited to be alive, we have tons of energy. And that period is called the honeymoon effect. And we create that personally, we create that. And it's a combination of quantum physics, as in our vibration. It's also a combination of the love potions, as in they call it love potions, but it's actually the love hormone. All right. And also up here, the subconscious mind and psychology. And so what happens is that we're all really, really excited, and we're working from a vibration of really high. So when I say vibration, for the people out there that are not sure what I'm talking about, it's actually, you could call it a frequency, you could call it just energy, but it's our electromagnetic field that we all have. You know, when somebody walks into a room and they say, oh yeah, blah, blah, light lit up the room. It's because everyone was feeling their vibration.
Yeah.
And so what's happening when we first meet someone is we're all actually working off that high vibration. So when you're working off that high vibration, that's all that matters. That's all that takes over our life. And so what happens generally, the reason why it fades is because life gets in the way. And that vibration starts to go down, and things like organizing the family, work, issues at work, then things might niggle you. And then that's when it all starts to fade away. And so when a part of the quantum, that's the quantum physics, the love potions, is that when you're really happy and you're on cloud nine, it's the serotonin, which is the well-being hormone, the oxytocin, which is the feel-good hormone, and then no, that's not the feel-good one, that's the bonding hormone, and then the dopamine, which is the feel-good one. Yeah. And all those go down as well. So you've even got hope in hell, really. Once life kicks in, that's when your psychology comes in, because then all the things from your childhood start to take over, and then unless you're aware of all that stuff, then your honeymoon effect is going to fade away, and then people just end up, you know, you think you found the love of your life, don't you? Think this is it, this is the one, and then that's it, all fades away. And you think, how did that happen, you know? So what's your take on it?
Well, I think probably the biggest reason that happens is because we stop making the effort. So in the honeymoon period, you'll find a way to spend time together. You'll sometimes go to work late, sometimes take the day off, sometimes, you know, rush out of work and go straight to meet somebody.
Dress up. You might dress up better.
You'll dress up, make the effort. Exactly. And, you know, like quite often I'm talking to couples now about planning their sex life, and they say, well, why should we plan it? You know, we never planned it before. Well, actually they did, because when you first meet, you're planning your sex life from the moment you start getting ready for that date. You know, you're like, yes, I'm going to look my best. I'm going to make him or her or really fancy me, and so I'm going to look my best. I'm going to put my best clothes on. I'm going to do my makeup the best way. I'm going to, you know, wear the best aftershave, wear the best suit or jeans. You know, that you're already concocting what's going to happen when you meet that other person, and you know, you're planning your sex life from that moment. You know, so. And then, of course, depending on your age, you know, if you're a really young teenager and you want to have sex with your boyfriend, you've got to plan it for when your parents are out, you know, or girlfriend or whatever, you know. Sorry, I'm speaking as if it was myself. But you plan that. You're like, right, my parents are going to be out. You can come around tonight and, you know, we can get closer and so on. And sometimes you don't even have that conversation. You just know your parents are out, get them around. And then if it leads to that, it's great. If it doesn't, you know, you're still planning towards that in the next few meetings, you know.
Yeah, and you know what I also noticed, that you get these beautiful women and gorgeous men, right? I'm thinking more about the women here, right? And then they look amazing, and suddenly you meet them again and they've put on weight and they're not caring anymore about themselves, and they tell you they're married. I'm like, why do we stop? Hey, why do we stop all that? Why do we stop the flirting? Why do we, you know, it's almost like it really is like a little switch on and a switch off, isn't it? So it's interesting how we unconsciously switch all that off, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of contributing factors to that. You know, is first of all, we can become complacent. Well, we're married now, we've done it, you know, we've achieved that. Now it's time to move on, have kids. You have kids, they, you know, not always have kids, but when you have kids as well, you know, you've got mortgages and bills and, you know, potentially debts from uni and stuff like that to consider in the relationship once you're married. And then, of course, children. Some people take on pets. You know, all of those things impact your daily life and take the time away from just the two of you. So that complacency doesn't help. Second of all, you stop making the effort because you're seeing each other all the time. So it's not like it's a special event anymore. So when you're going out on a date and you're not living together and you're not married, when you're going on a date, it's a special event because you haven't seen them for a day or two, or maybe a few hours, depending on, you know, how intense your relationship might be. So you'll make the effort because you haven't seen them for a while, so you want to look your best again, so you'll make the effort, and you just stop doing that when your relationship progresses and life gets in the way.
Yeah. And you know what, when you are like going out with each other, you don't live together, so at the beginning, I mean, obviously you do eventually, but at the beginning it's all very exciting because you're not even living together. And so when you go into a restaurant, you're meeting someone in a restaurant, the biggest aphrodisiac is the anticipation of seeing that person, you know. And that because you don't do that anymore, do you? Because you're together and you go in together. So that's like that's one of the tips actually we're gonna talk about later on, is the fact that, you know, if you just go to a restaurant for a meal but just go in separately. I don't do that enough. We don't do that enough, you know. We don't do it enough.
I think that's the thing as well, is, you know, it's not a bad thing that life gets in the way and that you have other commitments, and, you know, you start to be more sensible about being at work on time and not having so many days off, and potentially not throwing so many, you know, duvet days. So you have to start being sensible and, you know, doing the life chores, if you like. But like you say, you know, sometimes when you make the effort to come together and do something simple like that, go into a restaurant separately and, you know, just plan date nights that are different. Because I think one of the biggest things, certainly when you've been in a relationship for a long time, is you lose the ability you lose the ability and the willingness to have fun.
You do, you're right.
Sometimes just planning in a small bit of fun can make such a difference.
But you're absolutely
my husband
right.
doesn't believe, for example, that, I know it sounds really, really crazy, but last weekend I said to him, I'd really like to just go out in the garden and pick up those few bits of rubbish. Now, we'd had a refurb done, we'd had loads of bits of timber and rubbish that's blown around the garden from the wind, so on and so forth. And actually just doing that together for me was massive. For him, it didn't, it was a bit of a chore. I don't want to do that. Why do I want to do that?
But you were together, weren't you? You were
just
together,
5 to 10
bonding.
minutes is all it took. But the amount of effort for him was small, but what he did for me was massive.
Yeah.
And it's just about remembering those really small things that, although it may not be great for you, if what it does is fills the love bank of your partner to that extent, it's worth doing it.
Yeah, that's like the 5 love languages, though, isn't it? That's acts of service and
absolutely
all of that, isn't it? It's just funny, because I'm a really excitable person. You've known me for years now, and I'm like,
same. I think that's why we get on, isn't it? We're very similar.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that Greg is probably very similar to your husband. He doesn't get excited about anything very easily, really. And so when I suggest doing something, or he suggests that, let's go shopping. Oh yes, let's go shopping. You go like, I say, it's really exciting going out, because especially during the confinement, like that was the day out for us. We could go shopping in the supermarket.
Yeah.
But even like when he cooks me something, because Greg is a fantastic cook. Oh my God. Every lunchtime, it's like being in a 5-star restaurant. It's just incredible. Awesome. And I always thank him for it. He goes to me, Caroline, you don't have to thank me for this, I go, but I do, because you've made that and I'm really appreciating it. I say it every day without fail. Yeah. Even if it's a little bit, it's very rarely a little bit funny, but like not so nice, but I always say to him, this is good. And so anyway, I was saying, oh, this is really exciting. And he goes to me, what? But it does rub off onto him. It does. It has to, doesn't it? My high vibration, my electromagnetic field that comes from the heart, by the way, it's the heart that generates that electromagnetic field. And he's there and he feels it. And the thing is about this vibration that we're talking about here is that it goes in waves from our body, right? It goes 3 foot.
Yeah.
And then so when you're both on the, so that's me and that's Greg, for example, when you're both on the same level, they kind of intertwine. They go into it like ripples in water, right? Like that. Yeah. But if like he's on a low vibration, depressed, and I'm on a high, it can do that. It kind of the waves are trying to get in and they get stuck. And that's what happens in a relationship, is that the vibrations, like one person will be high, one person will be low, and then it brings the other one down. Getting somebody up to a higher vibration is a little bit more difficult. Getting them sad is like it can be instant. So
that's true. But also what you'll find sometimes in that situation is, and particularly women do this, what's wrong?
Yeah.
What's wrong? No, I'm fine. No, something's up. And we have to know. We have to know what's wrong with them. And sometimes there isn't anything wrong. They just need a bit of time to get their head around something, to process something, whatever it might be, But we insist that we must know what's wrong and see if we can fix it.
You see, the trouble is that we're 2 separate species, aren't we? That book, Men Are From Mars, Women From Venus.
Yep.
Women like to talk. We're the ones that like to, socialize and talk together. But a man, if he's got a problem, he has to go in his cave, as John Gray suggests is what they do. Go into the cave and try and sort it out, because he is supposed to be the problem solver, not the woman in these 2 species.
Yeah.
And so when the woman tries to solve it, and in fact, if the woman tries to solve the problem, it's got
takes the power away.
Exactly. And so I remember my brother, for 3 months, there was I knew, my mum and I knew there was something wrong, but you can't ask Pierre. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to talk about it, he won't talk. And 3 months later, we found out there was something terrible that was going on at work. And so it's like, that and the thing is, I know another friend of mine, her husband's exactly the same. But we, as the females, the Venus species, we just think they're going to feel better by talking about it, and they don't.
No,
so it's people need to read that book. Wouldn't you agree? They need to read that book.
For sure, and to just understand the fact that as you were saying, that women sort of like to give their meadow reports. So way back when, in caveman days. Pardon the stereotypical term there, but back in the cave times, the men would be the ones that went out and did the hunting. They would do a very fast attack on one animal, and they would take that animal down. They wouldn't randomly just chase lots of animals. They had one in target, and that was it. And they would bring home the bacon, so to speak, and they'd use all their energy to do that, just to feed the family. So they'd come back and, like you say, retreat into the cave, rest, replenish, ready for the next time they had to do that. The women, on the other hand, would be the ones who would be out foraging and, would be gone for quite some time. And they'd be out looking for berries. They'd have the children with them, hence women having better peripheral vision, because we have to be able to keep our eye on the children wherever they might have been whilst we were foraging and picking, fruit. We would then go back and give our meadow report, as they would say. And the meadow report is all literally about, right, okay, we've been to this area, there's no fruit, there's no, nothing to pick there, don't go there, that's, this is a waste of time. This area here, the fruit's nearly ready, perhaps next time you go out, it will be ready, so head for that area first. We went here today and we've taken all the fruit from this area, and this area here is nowhere near ready, so just for safety's sake, so that when they went out, they weren't out searching for hours and hours just to find the fruit. They knew exactly where to go. And so it became important. And as time evolves, women now, they want to talk about their shopping trip or the kids at school and, just about their day, really. And it's kind of the same philosophy, we're just talking, giving our meadow report. This happened, that happened, and I've got to tell you this, and I've got to tell you that. But for the men, when they come home, it's just like, you're not work, don't talk to me. Just let me.
Just on the back of what you were saying just then, is that, we come home and maybe we've had a problem in that day. Maybe we've had to deal with something. And the men immediately go into resolution mode. How can we solve this problem? Whereas the woman actually just wants to talk. She actually doesn't want it to be resolved. She just wants to talk about her day and get it off her chest. Exactly. And once she's got it off her chest, she's fine. I do remember, all my relationship life, when I'm upset about something that's gone on, this is obviously before I learned consciousness, but I'd be like, oh, excuse me a moment. The cat. Oh, it's you. Greg's just back from shopping. I have to cut that out of the podcast. And so I've lost my thread now.
We were talking about the meadow report and women just wanting to talk and the men coming in and fixing it, and they just
Thank you, Anne. So what would happen is that I'd be like talking like this. And then they'd be angry. They'd say something or do something, and I'd get upset, and I'd hold it for a while. Now I'm on the Enneagram. That's number 9, where you don't want to do confrontation. I don't like that. But what happens is it all just boils up, and in the end, you just have to say it. And the thing is that it's kind of like the same thing, because when you just say it, it's like all off your chest. Then there's no need to resolve it. It's all off the chest now. You've said your bit. Yeah. Hopefully they're going to listen and make notes with it or whatever, and that's it. And so that's something that I've realized now since doing super consciousness, that what happens, and this is what happens in the honeymoon effect, when it comes to psychology, is that, right, so he'll say something quite innocently to me, but for me, that's triggered something that really upsets me. And that always boils down from childhood, right? And so, but he's got no idea. He's got absolutely no idea that it's triggered me, because how's he going to know what happened to me when I was like 4, 7 or whatever, even 2 years old, right? So that makes me quiet, or it makes me go, whatever. And so then I'll say something back to him, which will then trigger his child. And of course, I don't know either. So that's what happens with couples, is that they end up like this because they're triggering each other. They've got no idea. And so,
sometimes we don't even have an idea about ourselves. And I think that's an important thing to bear in mind, is that unless we really know ourselves and understand ourselves, which we forget to do because of all the daily chores and all the other things that we have to do, like going to work and earning the money and paying the bills, and you do that from the moment you start working. When you're young and free and at school, you don't have to think about all of those things, which is great. But so I've lost my train of thought now. Where was I going with this? Yeah, so it is about knowing yourself and understanding yourself more than anything. If you understand yourself and understand why you react to things the way you do, where it's come from, the emotion that it triggers and the response that will follow, you can stop yourself. You
Absolutely.
can say to yourself, I don't need to have this train of thought. This is not necessarily what the other person has said or means. This is my perception of it. So what can I do differently in this moment that will stop me running the same pattern over and over again, with getting the same response over and over again and not having a resolution?
No, and that's the thing, isn't it? Because you will use the same tools. I mean, talking tools like how you resolve things. You use the same one every time. And of course, it never works, does it? You still get the same result. So it's exactly what you're saying. It's being able to change that. And sometimes people need to come, like that's what you and I do, is we help with the consciousness, and so it's becoming aware of yourself. And of course, it's finding out what was it that triggered you. I mean, everything is unconscious. And that's what you're saying. What I'm saying is that we have to become conscious, is what you're saying, being aware of exactly what it is. But a lot of people, you see, it's like when people go on a course and they learn something new, they go, great, I'm going to do this. And why is it that they stop doing it after a while? It's because this unconscious behavior comes back and it just takes over. Yes. And so you and I both do the same thing. And but although I go in and do the childhood incidents to try and find out, because you can sit there and you think, what was it in my childhood that did this? But you won't know. You need to know.
Exactly.
Hypnosis gets to the root of it. And then if you do like we've learned from Ryan Pinnock about how to get to the to do it's called childhood experience, to try and you do like a meditation to get in there and you spot the answer, you find it, and then when you found it, you heal it. And then what I do with my clients is I do affirmations to counteract that, because you can do affirmations all your life, can't you? But if you don't have affirmations, if you don't heal the wound, then the affirmations just don't do anything. So It's really important to heal that wound and then keep doing the affirmations to counteract what that wound was.
Yeah. I think it's important here to explain how simple this process is that we have in our unconscious mind. So I personally can explain it from my point of view, in the sense that I have always been a hater of injustice.
Same.
So I always feel like if I see that something's wrong, then I need to deal with it. It's unfair. So when someone says to me, you're angry, and I'm not angry, I feel that that's an injustice. I feel I'm being accused of something that I'm not doing. So my response is generally, no, I'm not angry, I'm fine. Yeah, you are angry because of the way you're talking. But like you, Caroline, I'm very passionate. So sometimes I talk really loudly and I talk really fast and I get so excited and I really want to just get all my news out and just share it all very quickly. So I talk like this. And some people might actually think that is me being angry, but it's not. It's just passion.
And you know why? Because that's what they experienced as children in their family, their environment, their culture, whatever. And they assume that what you're doing is the same as that.
Exactly.
It's assuming.
Exactly that. So I wanted to explain that, because I think it's important that sometimes you might be thinking, well, how do I know what's causing the problems for me? How do I know what the emotion is that's, being triggered for me? But it is something just that simple. I've always, as a child, always hated that my dad used to blame me for everything that my brother and my sister did. So, of course, anything that happens now that puts blame on me, and I know that I haven't done it, of course, I'm really thrown into. I'm actually looking at the picture behind you with the, your Sexplosion logo with that beautiful, beautiful explosion of colours. I'm actually thinking of that. That's exactly what happens to me when I feel like someone is blaming me for something I haven't done. And it's an explosion of emotions. It's fear, it's sadness, it's worry, it's concern. It's, whoa, what did I do? What did I do? And actually, when you sit back and think about it, you haven't done anything wrong. If you're not angry, you're not angry. end of. If someone's perceiving that you're angry, that is their issue, not yours. Very difficult to bring that into a relationship, because what you find, if you share that sort of information with people, in their very next argument, they're saying, you see, it's your fault. It's your fault because you're doing something that's making me upset. But no, hang on.
But you have to take, no, you're right.
It's your fault for thinking it's their fault.
You have to take responsibility, because shit happens in life, doesn't it? Shit happens. You can't control. But what you can control is how you respond to it.
Absolutely.
And that is exactly what you're saying. If you need to say, hang on a minute, that person doesn't know that this is really upsetting me, because they're just saying it, you know, well, your father was trying to, I don't know what he's trying to do. I was blamed a lot as well, not by my parents, but my grandmother. I was the oldest out of 7 grandchildren. And because I was the oldest, it was like automatically my fault. It's
you're
like,
the boss. You're in charge.
And in fact, I never wanted to go there for a long time. When I was a teenager, I was about 15 when I was being blamed like that. Yeah. And so in the end, I didn't go probably for about 7 years, I think, until I was young. Yeah. About 19 years old.
That's it. And that is exactly what happens, you know. And, you know, this carried through life with me, because I started then allowing people to do this to me, to blame me for something that I had no intention of. Yeah, exactly. And the moment I had that realization and thought, it's your problem, not mine, my life changed.
Yeah.
It literally changed overnight.
Yeah. And that's the beauty, isn't it, of doing this super conscious work? Because my God, do you see, I was only talking to somebody, I was talking to an audience of a recruitment agent, of somebody I've known for a long time. And I said something that he said, Karen, you've got to record this and give it, because I'm going to give it to my audience. Every Saturday I do this seminar with all these young people. And I what I'd said was that I was lost in my life. I was lost. When I met you, I was quite lost.
Yes.
And I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know.
I knew.
You did. It's true. You did, Anne.
No.
My God, you did. You said that to me as soon as I met Greg. You said
even before you met him. I knew.
Yeah. And I was like, because like I was so lost. I was an IT systems trainer for 22 years, and I was a project manager as well. And I just thought, gosh, I got to 51 years old and thought, shit, because as far as I'm concerned, I'm living till I'm 120. So I was like, gosh, I'm almost halfway through my life now. I've got to do something I really enjoy. I love doing the IT training, but I wanted something different. It's like, there's got to be more to life than this. And that's when I went off backpacking for 3 months. And then when I came back, I didn't spend all the money. I saved 10 grand to go backpacking. And I hardly spent any of it. So I went again, traveling again. So when I came back, I then decided to start thinking about what I was going to do. And I came and I met you in the Mastermind. Yeah. And I still was lost. So I was doing that. I had 4 business coaches, 4, right? And one of them, Lisa Johnson, she's amazing. She told me, Caroline, the way you talk, you just need to talk to people and relationships stuff. Because I tell it as it is. That's why I do Sexplosion. That's why I've got TikTok now. Honestly, Anne, it's completely exploded. I've got 224,000 just on the one where I talk about the female ejaculation. Well, squirting is what I say.
Yeah.
So anyway, and I was searching for business coaches, all great, but it was super consciousness that I found. Once I found consciousness and understood what I was doing to sabotage myself, that was it. And that's when people, you know, you said, well, it was you, but it was my relationship. What was it that went through your head? Go on, tell me.
Well, when I first met you and we were talking, well, I think I actually used these words to you. You want to be loved.
Ah, yes, you did. Yes, you did. And I was saying to you, no. I'm happy being. Sorry?
You were avoiding that by having the kind of relationships you were having.
Yes.
And not facing it. And I think even at that point you said to me, oh, no, I don't. And I was like, you do.
I honestly thought, Anne, because
I was nuts.
Sorry?
That I was nuts.
No, I loved you. I still do. So what it was is that I honestly had accepted that I was going to be single for the rest of my life, and that I was going to be in old people's home with a glitter ball, getting them out on their Zimmer frames and dancing with them like that. Because honestly, I was happy. I thought I was happy being single, But
I know you do.
actually, yeah. Once love came into my life, once I'd made, and obviously I made my list of my specifics a long time ago. Then it was loving myself. In those 15 years after I divorced, it was really hard to build myself up again. You know, it's easy to get down with your vibration, to get it up again is really hard. And so it took me 6 years to get over, because he absolutely crushed me. I was crushed as a person, my personality, everything about me. He's trying to make me to somebody I wasn't. That's what narcissists do.
And you were allowing that as well, because you were probably at that time thinking, well, I need to do this to make him happy, and I need to do that to make him happy,
and
not
I'll be
realizing
a better
that
person.
actually that's the worst thing that you can do, because you stop being yourself.
No, that's it. Look, you're going to laugh at this. He was comparing me to Margaret Thatcher. He was saying,
I'm so glad you got out of there. As much as I love Margaret Thatcher, we don't need another one.
No. And it was like, she only needs 4 hours sleep. What do you need more? So, because when I'm tired, I'm tired. I've always been like that. I mean, we luckily, Greg's the same. We go to bed at 9 o'clock. We switch life off at 10 o'clock. Life off.
What do you do between 9 and 10 then?
Well, we have a shower. Oh, I tell you what, you know, there's, you know, we might not do it all the time, right? But intimacy is constantly there every day.
It's not just about sex.
No, it isn't. It really isn't. You know, and any couple that thinks, oh no, my husband, I mean, at the end of the day, you have to be on the same level, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, then we can start talking about routine sex now. That's what the other topic was for our discussion today. So, you know, you can be in a brother-sister relationship, but only if you both are happy that way. Yeah. If that's what you both want, you have to be on the same level. And if you're not, and I tell you what, if you're not and the other one wants it, it's hell on earth. Because I remember in my marriage, I stopped fancying very shortly into the relationship. I actually stopped fancying him. Yeah. And it's a miracle with this relationship I'm in, because wow, it's been almost 3 years and I still fancy the pants off it. It's a miracle for me. I know. And
this is what I knew you needed.
You know, you did. That's why you're good at what you do. And we all need a mentor. You know, even Ryan Pinnock, you know, he has mentors. You know, we all need someone else to tell us. Because,
absolutely.
Yeah, you know. So with Greg, you know, we're on the same level, and I've never ever had that before. We are balanced. I have, and same for him too. You know, he's got 2 marriages behind him. I've got 1 behind me, and so we know what we want, what we don't want, and so we're never going to put up with any old shit again, because we've been there. And oh my god, it's been tough. I mean, him too. And the thing is that being brought up by a narcissist, you know, it's very negative. And actually, when I say things to him, so he says something to me, I don't take offense, because I now know that's just what he's been taught, as in that's what he learned as a child. That's how his parents spoke to each other. And I'll say to him, we'll get on the sex in a minute. I say to him, you know, the way you just spoke then, you know, that's how your mum spoke to your dad. And he goes, oh yeah. So you don't, and he goes, and he says to me afterwards, God, he said, when I realized what I must have put my wives through, you know, because I was so angry, so negative, you know, they'd have an idea and I'd go. And what's really interesting, Anne, is that when I say something positive, he automatically finds things wrong with it. You know, it's like his program. That's part of his job, is to find things wrong. So he finds wrong with it. But when I say something negative, you're not going to believe this, he says all the things positive about it. And I started to realize that. I thought, I tested him as well. And I thought, right, I've got to find something that, because I genuinely don't find anything negative, genuinely. Sometimes I do. And I tested him and I said something negative, and he goes, oh, well, you know, I was like, do you see that? Do you see that, Greg? You're saying things positive when I said something negative, but you always say that. He goes, oh, yeah. Amazing, isn't it? When you start to be aware of your behavior, it makes life so much easier.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
God. So let's talk about routine sex. So routine sex is when you don't do it as much, and you find it a chore, and it's like, the other half wants to do it, and you're like, okay, I'll do it. And there are a lot of women, I've seen women on TikTok where they say, I just do it for him. It's like, really, you shouldn't just do it for him. But what's your take on it?
Gosh, it is a difficult one, isn't it?
It is.
Because the old-fashioned rules of marriage for those that are in marriages are that you should allow your husband to have sex with you. But in real terms now, I would definitely say that you shouldn't necessarily feel like you have to have sex. I'd ask, first of all, if it was me working with clients now, I'd ask, why don't they want to have sex? What is the stumbling block? Often it is just tiredness, run-of-the-mill stuff that, has just taken the energy out of you and you just don't feel like it. Other times it's, he thinks he can just have sex and I need something before that. They need foreplay, they need intimacy, they need attention, they need their partners to listen to their bloody Meadow report.
Yes.
You just need, literally, if you just sit and listen to your partner when you come home, and this won't be the same for every woman, but if your partner comes home and listens to you, then they are already building love in your bank, right? So if they're building the love in your bank, you are more likely to feel that you want to be intimate with them. So then it leads to, the hugs and the kisses, and then potentially once you get into bed, some foreplay and sex. But if you don't have all that leading up to it, often it becomes a chore. It's just another thing that you have to do in your life, even if you don't want to. Sometimes you don't want to get up in the morning, run around the house with the kids. Sometimes you don't want to do the housework. Sometimes you don't want to, rush around and get up and be ready for work and have done all of those things, but you still just do them. And then it becomes just the same old chore when you get into bed and your husband wants sex, or your partner wants sex and you're too tired to do it.
You're so right. I just want to pick up on what you said about listening, to the Meadow report, because just by the man sitting there and listening, that's all they have to do, makes you feel supported. Absolutely. And that in itself is a bond. It's a connection, isn't it, that you need with your partner. And a lot of men don't even realize that. And goes back again to us being two different species. And if they just understood this species and we understood them, I mean, it's two-way, obviously, then you're absolutely right about that. Just sitting there listening is support. But
I explain this to my clients all the time, is that we have an underlying personality profile, and I love DISC profiling, so I'll quote that, the dominance, influence, steadiness and compliance. We also then have nurture, so how our parents brought us up, and that will be affected by their upbringing and also their personality profiles. And then we have, as you say, childhood incidents, young adulthood incidents. So basically any significant emotional events that have happened throughout your life from the time you were born, or even as much as way back when you were, inside your mum's womb. Because they now are saying that the mother's situation when she's pregnant can impact what happens to you as the baby, and then as a child.
The fetus feels the emotion, don't they?
Exactly. And I wholeheartedly agree with that, without any scientific background or whatever. You're linked to your mum when you're in her womb, so there's got to be some sort of correlation.
Absolutely.
In her emotions and things that are going on for her, and and we can still hear when we're in the womb. So you can hear like the raised voices, you can hear things going on. I feel for those poor babies now in the womb that are hearing explosions and guns going and stuff. It must be pretty awful, not to mention the people are actually already born and going through it. But it does have an impact. And so I explain this all the time, that you've got all of those things going on, your base profile, your nurture, and any emotional events that have happened. And they could be happy emotional events, it just depends on the situation of that event as well. They will all impact
Everything.
how you are as a person. So let's just take a happy emotional event. So if you had something happen that made you really excited and really happy, but later on in life that same thing happens and you're not allowed to have the same happiness and excitement about it because of the situation you're in with a partner or whatever, that will have an impact on you as well, because you'll be thinking, well, when I did this before, it was fine. I had a great time and it was all right. Why can't I celebrate that now? And then we'll start having the emotions and the behavior that follow.
Exactly. I'll tell you what happened, right? And picking up on the foreplay bit you were talking about is my husband, Frantz, we're actually, and I don't know why I was doing this. I should have left a long time ago, but we were doing IVF. That's it. I was doing IVF. And of course, with IVF, you have to go on the calendar and you have to do it at specific times and that. And and I said to him, it's time now, so to do, and I still didn't fancy him, but you think I think it's my problem.
Your focus was on the baby.
Yeah, and I was trying to just and he goes, do it yourself, foreplay. I said, I need warming up. That's what I said. I need warming up. He goes, do it yourself. I couldn't believe it. How can anybody say that? It's like it's something for two people to do.
But
together.
You know what? I bet you, I lay money on it that there are people out there that are quite happy to do that.
Oh yeah, probably.
So
I suppose it's your expectation again, isn't it?
But again, that your relationship was toxic. So in that situation, it's not fair and it's not right and it's not nice and it's unkind. But there are people out there that would be happy to do that in a relationship anyway. But that's talking about a relationship that's sort of a bit more solid, obviously.
Yeah. So listen, let's have how long we got. Oh gosh, I haven't got long left. So what I'd like to talk about now is how can we fix this routine, boring sex? How can we spice it up? So I'd like you to offer your ideas on what to do, and then I'll do some of the ideas as well and give our audience lots of ideas on how they can get out of routine, boring sex.
Well, we can get out of any routine that we want to at any time. We are in control of that. Yeah, it is a choice, and it's about making the choice. Obviously, you have to have both people involved in that choice, because you can book the date, but if they don't want to go on it, then you might have a little bit of a problem. But dates don't have to cost money. If they do cost money, they don't have to be expensive. So covering all financial situations here, depending on what you like. If you think back to sort of when you were young and you were allowed to stay out and you had to be home by a certain time, you would stay outside with that person for as long as you possibly could. So even if they walked you home or you walked them home, you would stay outside. And what would you do? More often than not, you'd be looking at the stars, right? Why not just do that? Go out in the garden, put a whole load of blankets out there, lay under the stars. Any
so
time of year,
though, isn't it? It's romance.
So romantic. It's so simple, and it's there is sort of some evidence that laying under a full moon it actually gives you really good positive energy, and so when you soak up the energy from the moon, you feel better.
Wow.
So just something as simple as that. Obviously, planning dates and planning ahead. So even if you only want to go out once a month, plan in one day every single month, whether it be an evening date or a daytime date, it doesn't really matter. If it's only 1 hour at lunchtime, it's fine. As long as you've planned it in and it's what's going to work for you, then plan it in so you have all 12 plans at the beginning of the year and you both know exactly what you're going to be doing and when you're going to be doing it.
Wow, imagine they look forward to it as well.
Yeah, and there's no reason why you can't book theatre tickets or, buy a cinema voucher and have a date that you're going to go to the cinema, and you've got the cinema voucher so that's all planned and ready when you go to the cinema. Even if there's nothing on that you particularly want to watch, look, watch something that you would never normally watch and see what happens. You don't ever have to watch it again, but you're together, and who knows, sit in the back row, and if it's that boring a movie or you're really not into it, there might be some other things that you can get up to in the back row. Because who says that's for kids, right? That's for anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, fantastic. What I would like to say is to bring back the spark is actually kissing for 30 seconds every day. Just 30 seconds every day.
There's some other tips as well, like laughing together. So just literally you start laughing, even if you've got nothing to laugh about, you just start laughing, and you laugh until eventually you're laughing naturally. There's another thing that you can do as well. So just some simple tips, is actually spend some time looking into each other's eyes.
Oh yes, definitely.
Like intensely.
5 minutes.
Yeah. Just literally, you don't do anything else, no other interruptions, no, don't get up to make tea, don't get up to go to the toilet, do all that before you start, and then make sure that you continually look into each other's eyes, like really, really looking deep into their soul, and just really, really concentrate.
And you know, with that,
see things in them that you've not ever seen before.
And also, like, I bet they've never done that before, never actually
probably when they first met.
Well, probably, yeah, but even not for
a lot when we first meet.
Probably, I don't know about even 5
maybe
minutes.
Not even for that long, but
but yeah, and they stopped doing that. See, that's another thing they stopped there with the honeymoon period. It stops all of that.
Some things are so simple, we just forget them.
And you know what? Another thing. So if it's the man that wants to do it all the time, and the woman doesn't because she's tired or whatever. But again, it's that connection they need to get if they start to feel love. So what I would suggest is like doing a nice romantic text, because then she'll feel loved. Maybe leaving a little note in her bag or something for her to find. Little things like that.
Yeah, well,
make a massive difference to her feeling loved. Because again, like we were saying, with just listening makes all the difference, just to feel support and loved. And that's just another thing I was thinking of doing as well. Absolutely. And even touching under the table.
Even the women can do that for their partners as well. It isn't just about the men doing everything. The women can do it for their partners too. Write them a little note that they'll find, even if it's a bit of a sexy note that they'll find in their pocket while they're stood in the coffee or something, I think
that's so lovely, and even bringing a bunch of flowers every now and again. I wanted to also say to everybody, patchouli, you can't really see. Let me just see if I can put this close enough. Can't see patchouli.
Down a little bit.
Patchouli, right? This apparently, obviously everybody's different. Everybody's got their own kind of smells, haven't they, right? This apparently is like our pheromone smell, the closest smell to our pheromone smell. Like animals when they're all, on heat, right? Use that.
What should they do with it? Try it. What should we do with it?
I would just, we got to test it on your skin first to make sure it's all right. But just like perfume, like they'll smell you.
Right. Just try it. With my knowledge of aromatherapy oils, you can't put it directly on the skin.
So it needs to be with the carrier oil. Too
strong to put it directly on the skin. So put it in a carrier oil first.
I've put it on my skin, but maybe mine's a bit. Yeah, you need to be able to. You need to do a test with the carrier oil. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right. So, thank you. God, that was a lovely conversation. I really enjoyed that conversation, Anne. Thank you so much for coming.
There's one question that you were going to ask me and you haven't asked.
I have. No, I was going to ask. I was going to ask it in a minute.
Okay.
Because what I wanted to tell everybody is, if they want to get hold of you, what do they? I'm gonna post your social media links in Facebook on the underneath this as a comment.
Yep.
But is there anything you can give them, like to what is your free? Have you got a free gift today? Have you got anything that you want to give them today?
Yeah, they can book a free call with me. And that there's no time limit on that call, and we can talk about how I might be able to assist you. I don't really, just for as long as they want, really. I don't really have a time limit on it, just a free call, and just to make sure that we feel like we could work together.
All right, brilliant. Okay, so you're on Facebook, you're on Instagram and on LinkedIn, and you've got your own website. I'm going to post all of that.
Oh, I'm on TikTok as well. Not that I do.
Are you on TikTok?
I am on TikTok, so I will search you out as well.
Oh my God.
I do. One of my failings, my biggest failing is that I don't do videos. I don't talk really on social media, and I know I should.
Well, I'm glad you're on TikTok because for me, that's the best place for me. Honestly, Anne, with LinkedIn, Facebook, and Instagram all together, with all the years that I've been on social media,
done more on TikTok.
I've got more engagement on TikTok than anywhere else, probably because I can actually be myself. It's a bit too formal, isn't it, on the others? I can't really be myself and talk about the naughty things that I can talk about. So so that's how they can get hold of you. And the question I wanted to ask you, I ask all my guests, is what would you advise yourself if you're 18 again?
Well, actually, it's funny, we talked about this in our conversation anyway, but my advice to myself, if I was 18 now, I would say, do not ever change for someone else's happiness. Perfect. You are amazing and perfect just the way you are, and their happiness is their problem to find in their own way.
Perfect. Gosh, that's really good. Really good. Okay, so listen, folks, I hope you enjoyed this chat today. Look out for next month, where we have another exciting guest on talking about something to do with sex, probably a man next month. Don't forget to go off onto Caroline's Sexplosion. Hold on, it's called Sexplosion. Sexplosionpodcast.com, and there you can get some freebies in there. So that's it, folks. Thank you all for attending, and to your success. Till next month. Bye-bye. Hello, podcasters, and welcome to Sexplosion. My name is Caroline Chenier, and I'm your coach on all things intimacy, relationships, sex, and superconsciousness. This is my podcast teaching you about how